Hi there, I'm Dr. Jeff Borden, the Chief Academic Officer at campus. If I've not met you before, you may not know that until a couple of years ago, I was the Chief Innovation Officer at St. Leo University in Florida. We implemented this product, and while I was there, I went through a number of hurricanes. We had, unfortunately, several moments of disruption. Now, some of those were 2 to 4 week disruptions, but we did have a couple of our centers actually leveled. And for those students and faculty and staff, a new normal had to be established, very much like the context we find ourselves in now due to the coronavirus. So I want to share with you some of the lessons that we learned at that time in how to use the system a little differently. You know, they say that people only use 20% of their smartphone. I want to see if I can't help you with this very, very powerful smartphone that you have in campus. Try to use maybe 30, 40, 50%. And really start to make use of it in ways that will help you. I'm going to come over here into the system, and I'll start to talk through just some of the things that I think might be of benefit to you. Let's start with activity, and specifically, let's start with notices and alerts. As you create notices and alerts, don't forget, you can create omni-channel experiences. You don't just have to rely on email. You can override everyone's preferences for regular notifications because of these big important messages and say, I want to send out an SMS, or I want to post something at the top of the activity feed. At the same time, you can select very specific audiences, not just high-level roles, but those individual personas that you have created inside of the system. If I go into create an alert, you can also make sure that that alert spans time. So you can make sure that you let people know when it expires. But even more importantly than that, maybe something you didn't know you could do is you can link from an alert, which will stay at the top of my activity feed, to another area of the system, like this new group that I've just created called Coronavirus Town Hall. So people can now come in here and interact in ways that I want them to. The next thing I'd like to talk about, let's talk about labels. I'm going to jump over into the admin center for a second, where we start to look at different ways that institutions create labels. Now, there are hundreds of labels often at an institution, meta tags that connect people. But in this context, maybe you create some new ones, like the word coronavirus or COVID-19 or social distancing. You also might consider town hall or newsletters, things like that. But remember that any of these tags, any of these labels, can then be searched at a later time. You can take a look at where they were used in posts or in groups or by people. And then you can literally click on the things that you find here and go to, maybe I want to see the coronavirus updates from my school. And so now I found it. Another thing that you might want to do back here in your admin pages are keywords and key phrases. Now, some of our institutions use these heavily. You want to be alerted when somebody says, I can't register, and send a message to the registrar's office. It's important to know that any of these keywords can trigger a notification to go to a person, a group, an office, a department. Really, the sky's kind of the limit there. But again, in this context, maybe you start to create different keywords or key phrases, like I'm lonely or depressed, having something like that go to your counseling office. Maybe for some of your aid offices, you want to know if people don't have food, money for food, if they're hungry, if they can't have dinner. Academic affairs offices might want to hear LMS or I can't find something. IT in their support mechanisms might want to wait for a trigger based on how do I, or help me, or something like that. So you really can get to students much, much quicker rather than waiting for them to reach out to you in a proactive way just because they've reached out to the community to look for help. Of course, you probably want to tell people that when they get those notifications, it will very likely take them into a group or someplace where the student was able to post a message. And so what do they do then? They come in, they see whatever the message is, and they probably at that point want to respond. You just want to make sure that everybody knows kind of what they're doing. The next thing that I want to talk about, since we're here, is groups. You may leverage groups widely or narrowly, but now is probably a good time to create some groups specific to what's going on. As you can see here, I've created this COVID-19 town hall where people can get information, they can find resources. even broken down by who they are, web links, documents, things like that. But at the same time, you might want to create some other kinds of groups now. You've got a lot of students potentially who have gone online and have never done that before. Maybe the same with faculty. So perhaps you want to create a distance learning support group or an online boot camp to really help people get acclimated into the context of distance learning as quickly as possible. Or again, maybe you want to create a sticking together club. Remember, 7% of students leave college, drop out of college, or fail out of college because they're lonely. Help people not be lonely. Help people feel tethered to the institution utilizing these groups. You also might consider using polling, doing a quick check-in or a pulse check just to see how people are doing. This might be a good way to find out, are people experiencing depression? Are people experiencing loneliness? Are they having a hard time doing online learning or whatever that might entail? Are they hungry? Did they get fired? Are they struggling with finances? Obviously, underneath a poll, after someone takes it, you can also then direct them to the offices, the emails, the phone numbers, or the groups inside of this system that actually help them get answers. So that's something that I would highly, highly recommend. Scrolling down, let me check out some pages. Now might be a good time to create newsletter pages, update pages. And in this case, you can see I can go back and I can look historically at all of the updates that have gone on so that I'm not just relying on those notices and alerts that students don't really have an archive of. Here, I can see the archive. But remember, it doesn't just have to be pages that you own. And don't forget, you can have anyone own these. You can really give governance of these pages to any department, any office, any person. It can be managed by IT. It can be managed in whatever way you'd like. But you can also begin to pull in websites from the world and have them display internal for your students, faculty, staff, and administrators. Here, I've got the CDC's college and universities page so that people can see what their guidelines and guidance are for our sector. One other thing that you might consider during this time is tasks. A lot of people just use tasks coming out of the LMS, or they have other systems promote tasks. Well, one of the struggles that online people, not just students, but people, remote workers, remote employees, and remote students have, is how to organize themselves, how to know what to do next and when they should do something. Well, tasks might be a way to help you with that. You can send out tasks reminding them to do certain things in the online system, reminding teachers now is the time to turn in midterm grades or whatever it might be. Tasks might really be a nice way for you to urge people to do kind of the next thing. And then finally, when it comes to tools, don't forget that if you've added any new tools to the mix in terms of modality, the biggest one that I've seen around higher ed so far has been Zoom. Make sure that you're putting that into the menu of the right people. Attach that tool to the right persona so that people are seeing Zoom. I can even then favorite it if that's something that I'm going to start using a lot. I really hope that this has been helpful to you. It's obviously just a starter, but again, it's accompanying this document that goes into more detail around everything that I've talked about, including some screenshots and different things as you go. You'll be getting that. You can certainly distribute it around your institution. Everybody stay safe, be well, good luck, and good learning.